They say your whole life flashes before your eyes in the moment before death. For me, it was someone else's life that changed mine forever. It was a rainy Tuesday evening, one of those where the sky couldn't decide if it wanted to cry or scream. I was behind the wheel, just off a double shift at the hospital. Exhaustion clouded my thoughts, but I knew I had to stay awake for 10 more minutes. 10 minutes to reach home. 10 minutes to peace. Then I saw the headlights. Too close. Too fast. Screeching tires. A deafening crash. When I came to, the world was a blur of broken glass and sirens. My ribs ached, my leg was pinned, and everything smelled like smoke and blood. But through it all, I heard a voice, a man's voice. Calm. Reassuring. I've got you. Just hang on, okay? That was the first time I heard Ethan's voice. He was the off-duty firefighter who had stopped to help. In a world where most people look the other way, Ethan jumped out of his truck into the chaos, dragging me from the wreckage before the flames reached the fuel line. I was barely conscious, but I remember his arms, strong, steady, and the way he said my name after reading it off my hospital badge, Leah. Recovery wasn't quick. My body healed slowly, but my heart had been cracked long before the crash. I was already living half a life. Divorced at 32, estranged from my father, and just working myself numb to avoid feeling anything at all. But Ethan didn't just walk away once the ambulances left. He came to check on me at the hospital. Then again the next week. He brought coffee. Books. Quiet company. He had this way of just being there, not trying to fix me, just listening. He carried his own shadows. A lost brother. Years of guilt. A failed engagement that left him doubting everything about love. We were both broken, in different ways, but somehow, we started to heal together. Still, I wasn't ready. I tried to push him away. And then, just when I thought I had drawn a clear line, he knocked on my door one night, soaked in rain, and said, "You don't have to love me back, Leah. But I needed you to know. I already do." I froze. My heart raced. And just as I opened my mouth to answer, the phone rang. I looked at the screen and felt the blood drain from my face. It was my ex-husband. The one who had walked away without a word 2 years ago. Why was he calling now? And why did Ethan suddenly look like he already knew? I stared at the phone, my breath caught somewhere between my lungs and my heart. My ex-husband's name lit up the screen like a warning flare. After 2 years of silence, not even a birthday message, now he was calling, on the very night Ethan confessed he loved me. The timing couldn't be worse. Or more suspicious. Ethan stood at the door, drenched from the rain, his eyes full of something raw, maybe fear, maybe anticipation. I couldn't tell anymore. My finger hovered over the screen, but I let the call go to voicemail. I needed answers, just not from the past. Not yet. I let Ethan in. We sat on the couch, my living room dim except for the soft light of the table lamp and the ticking of a clock that suddenly felt too loud. I could see his hands tremble slightly, and I realized he wasn't as confident as he looked. His courage came from pain, not pride. "I didn't mean to scare you," he said, voice low. "I just needed to say it once. I've been carrying it too long. What if I don't know how to love again?" I asked, barely louder than a whisper. He smiled, almost sadly. "Then let's start with learning to feel again." That night, I learned Ethan wasn't just brave in a crisis, he was gentle in the quiet. Over the next few days, he told me things he hadn't shared before. About his brother, Dylan, who had died in a fire Ethan couldn't reach in time. About the guilt that haunted him every time he saved someone else. About the fiancé who couldn't live with the grief he wouldn't share. I told him about my ex, Ryan. About how our marriage crumbled under the weight of ambition and silence. How he'd walked away without a real explanation, just a note that said, "I'm sorry. I can't do this anymore." And now, he was calling? Ethan never pressured me, but I could see the question behind his eyes. Was I still tied to the man who left me? A few days later, I listened to the voicemail. Ryan's voice was shakier than I remembered. Leah. I know I'm the last person you want to hear from. But I need to talk. It's about something I should have told you a long time ago. It's about the night of your accident. I froze. That night? Why would he know anything about that night? I turned to Ethan, who was reading beside me. He looked up, concerned. Everything okay? I didn't know what to say. Because deep down, I was starting to wonder if my accident hadn't been just an accident after all. I replayed Ryan's voicemail at least 6 times. Each time, his words echoed deeper, cracking open something I'd sealed shut. It's about something I should have told you a long time ago. It's about the night of your accident. What could he possibly know about that night? He wasn't supposed to be anywhere near me. We hadn't spoken in months before the crash. So why did it suddenly feel like everything I thought I knew was wrong? Ethan noticed the shift in me. He didn't press, but his eyes lingered longer when I stared out the window too long. His voice softened when he said my name. And though he didn't ask what was in the message, I saw the question in the silence. That week, I told Ethan I needed some space. I hated the way his face dropped, like he already knew I was about to run. Just a few days, I promised. I need to figure something out. He nodded, stepping back. I'll be here. And I believed him. I met Ryan at a public cafe, neutral ground. When he walked in, he looked nothing like the man I married. Thinner. Eyes haunted. He didn't even reach for a hug. Just sat, rubbed his hands together, and blurted, I wasn't supposed to leave you like that. I was scared. But that night, I was following you. My stomach turned. You'd been working late for weeks. I thought you were seeing someone. His eyes flickered up. I followed you that night to confront you, but I lost sight of your car in the rain. Then I heard the crash. I swallowed hard. So what, you just watched from the shadows? No, he said quickly. I ran to help, but someone was already pulling you out. A guy. Big. Strong. He knew your name. He paused. That's when I knew you didn't need me anymore. It didn't make sense. I hadn't been seeing anyone. I'd barely been surviving. Why say this now? I asked. Because, that man. The one who saved you. I've seen him before. That wasn't the first time he's crossed our lives. I stared at him, heart pounding. What are you saying? He slid a folded photo across the table. A photo of Dylan, Ethan's brother. But standing beside him was a younger Ethan, and in the background, blurred but unmistakable, was Ryan. All 3 of them. In the same place. Years ago. What is this? That man you're with, he's not a stranger, Leah. He's connected to us. I don't know how deep it goes, but your accident, it wasn't fate. It was a crossroads. I sat there, shattered. Because deep down, I already knew Ethan had secrets. Now I had to find out what they were, and if the man I was falling in love with was really the one who saved me, or someone who had been part of my story long before I ever knew. I couldn't sleep that night. The photo Ryan had shown me burned in my mind like a fever. Ethan and Dylan, standing together, and Ryan, in the background. They all knew each other. Years ago. Long before the accident. How had Ethan never mentioned that? I kept telling myself there had to be an explanation. Maybe it was a coincidence. Maybe he didn't recognize Ryan. But deep down, something wasn't adding up. Not after everything Ryan said. Not after Ethan's hesitation every time I asked about his past. The next morning, I drove to Ethan's place unannounced. The sky was heavy with clouds, mirroring the storm in my chest. I parked, heart pounding, and climbed the stairs to his apartment. He opened the door and froze the second he saw me. You okay? He asked softly. I held up the photo. His face went pale. "Tell me the truth, Ethan," I said. "You knew Ryan before the accident. Why did you lie to me?" He didn't speak right away. Just stepped aside and let me in, as if he already knew this moment was coming. Inside, the room felt colder than usual. His firefighter jacket hung on the back of a chair. A framed picture of Dylan sat on the shelf. But my eyes were locked on his. "I didn't lie," he said carefully. "I just didn't know how to tell you." "Tell me what?" He took a breath, slow and heavy. "Years ago, I ran with the wrong people. Dylan and I got involved in some dangerous stuff. Ryan was part of it, too. Not deep, but enough to be around when things went bad." "What kind of things?" I whispered. He sat down, rubbing his hands together like he was trying to wring the truth out of his own skin. "There was a fire. An old warehouse. Dylan died in it. We thought Ryan might have tipped someone off, but there was never proof. We all walked away, blaming each other." My heart felt like it was breaking all over again. "So you knew who Ryan was when you saved me?" "I recognized him," Ethan said. "But I didn't know you were his Leah." "Not at first. Not until the hospital, when you were asleep and I saw your file." "You still stayed," I said, voice trembling. "I stayed because I fell in love with you. Not your past. Not his. Just you. But yes, I should have told you." Tears stung my eyes. "So what now? You think this was fate? That saving me was redemption?" "No," Ethan said, rising. "I think it was a second chance. But only if you believe I'm not the same man I was back then." I stared at him, heart shattered between past and present. Everything inside me screamed to walk away. But I didn't move. Because even now, I didn't know if he was the one who saved me, or the one who broke me first. I left Ethan's apartment feeling hollow. Every part of me was shaking: rage, confusion, heartbreak. I had trusted him, even loved him, and yet he'd kept one of the biggest truths of my life hidden from me. But just as I was ready to walk away from it all, the real twist unraveled, and it wasn't Ethan's past that broke everything wide open. It was mine. Later that night, I sat alone in my bedroom, photo in hand, replaying everything. My thoughts spiraled, questions circling like vultures. How had my accident truly happened? Could it really have just been fate, Ethan nearby at the right time? Or was something darker beneath it all? I pulled out the old police report. I hadn't looked at it in over a year. I remembered filing it away, thinking there was no need to revisit the worst day of my life. But now, I needed to see. I needed the details. And what I found hit me like a punch to the chest. The brake lines had been cut. My hands went numb. I read it 3 times to be sure. The damage from the crash had initially hidden it, but further investigation suggested it hadn't been a mechanical failure, it had been sabotage. Deliberate. Someone had tried to kill me. My head spun. I grabbed my phone and called the officer listed in the report, Detective Rains. He remembered the case, said it was closed due to lack of leads. But before he hung up, he added something I'd never heard before. "The only person who pushed to reopen the case was your ex-husband, Ryan." Why hadn't he told me that? I confronted him the next morning, storming into his condo without warning. He didn't even act surprised. "I wanted to protect you," Ryan said. "You'd already been through enough. Someone tried to kill me, Ryan. And you knew? Why didn't you tell me?" He rubbed his jaw, eyes flickering. "Because it wasn't just about you. I think I was the target, Leah. That car, you were driving mine." Silence. Suddenly, everything shattered into a million sharp pieces. I had borrowed Ryan's car that night after mine broke down. He was supposed to be the one in that crash. And Ethan? He had saved me, yes. But what if he hadn't just been in the right place at the right time? What if he had been watching Ryan? A sick thought formed in my mind. Had I just been collateral damage in something far bigger? As I stood there, stunned, my phone buzzed. A message from Ethan. I need to tell you the full story. But not over the phone. Meet me tonight. Please. It's time you knew everything. My hands trembled as I read it. Because if what Ryan said was true, then Ethan hadn't just saved my life. He might have been part of the reason it was in danger in the first place. The old parking lot behind the fire station was nearly empty when I pulled in. The sun was just starting to set, casting golden light through the trees, but it didn't warm the chill inside me. Ethan stood by his truck, hands in his pockets, as if he'd been waiting for this moment forever. I stepped out, every heartbeat echoing like thunder in my chest. You said you'd tell me everything, I said, my voice stronger than I felt. He nodded once, solemn. You deserve the truth. All of it. We sat on the tailgate, side by side, but a mile apart. And then he told me. Years ago, Ethan had been part of a group that operated in the gray, off-the-record favors, street-level debt collecting, unofficial protection. It wasn't criminal, but it wasn't clean. Ryan had gotten involved briefly, but pulled out after an argument with Dylan. That argument turned into a rift, and shortly after, the warehouse fire happened. Dylan died, and Ethan never forgave Ryan for walking away. Then Ethan found out Ryan had opened a business using money that might have come from one of those old deals, money Dylan had helped earn. Ethan didn't trust it. He believed Ryan had used them, and when he saw Ryan's name on your hospital chart after the crash, he thought fate was giving him a reason to finally expose everything. I didn't cause your accident, he said, pain etched in every word. But when I found out you were driving his car that night, I knew someone else might have. I started digging. I looked at him, trying to hold on to the man I thought he was, the man who stayed by my side, who helped me learn how to feel again. But the lines were blurring fast. You should have told me sooner. I wanted to. Every day. But then I got to know you. The real you. And suddenly, revenge didn't matter. Only you did. I stood, overwhelmed. And the sabotage? Do you know who did it? He hesitated. Yes. It was someone from the old crew. Not me. Not Ryan. But someone who thought Ryan still owed them, and tried to send a message. And I was the message. I didn't know, he whispered. Until it was too late. Tears blurred my vision. The truth was uglier than I ever imagined. But somewhere in all that chaos, he saved me. He loved me. I don't know if I can trust you, I said. I don't expect you to. But I'll spend every day proving that you can. The wind picked up, brushing through my hair like an echo of the night he pulled me from the wreckage. The night everything changed. I turned to him, eyes wet but unbroken. Then start now. He reached out, hesitant. I took his hand. Because even if love began in the wreckage, maybe, just maybe, it could be rebuilt from it too. Ethan and I didn't become us overnight. Love doesn't work that way, especially not after everything we'd been through. But that moment, standing by his truck, hand in hand as the sun dipped behind the trees, was the beginning of something real. Something earned. We decided to take things slow. No grand promises. Just honesty. I needed time to heal, to rebuild trust, not just in Ethan, but in myself. For so long, I'd been surviving the crash and the betrayal. Now, I wanted to live beyond it. Ethan started therapy, on his own. Not for me, but for himself. He said he needed to face the man he used to be, to make peace with Dylan's death and the choices that haunted him. I respected that more than I can explain. It showed me that love isn't just about grand gestures. It's about showing up, consistently, vulnerably, and with humility. As for Ryan, I confronted him one last time. He admitted that he'd known the car might have been tampered with, but thought the threat wasn't real. He regretted not saying something sooner, but the truth is, we were both caught in a web of secrets and silence. I forgave him, not because he deserved it, but because I did. Carrying anger was too heavy. Eventually, the person responsible for the sabotage was arrested, one of Dylan's old associates who had held on to a grudge for far too long. It was closure I hadn't even known I needed. Not revenge, just truth. Months passed. Ethan and I worked on building a quiet kind of love. We cooked together, went for walks, and even visited Dylan's grave, together. It wasn't always easy, but it was real. And one evening, sitting on the porch of the small home Ethan had been fixing up, he turned to me and said, "That night I pulled you from that wreckage, I thought I was saving a stranger. But the truth is, you saved me too." I smiled, tears in my eyes. Maybe that's what love really is, pulling each other out of the fire, again and again. The accident that nearly ended me became the beginning of everything.